I'm Renee Devereaux with the Club for Creative Expression. Thank you for tuning in. And you may be aware that I am a holistic practitioner and have been in private practice for the last 41 years. And if you've watched any of the previous shows, you know that I bring information to you as far as maintaining health and wellness, and specifically health and vitality through your senior years using alternative therapies. Well, my guests and I have thoroughly explored and discussed the aging human body, but what I've neglected or what I've been reluctant to discuss in the past has been, the main reason for my work and why I became a hypnotherapist, and that is metaphysics. The power of the mind, our ability to influence the mind, and the impact of the spiritual component. So most of my reluctance was due to the fact that there was a lot of resistance when I would mention my approach to aging. That is, until I met Terry Fisher. So today I am proud and honored to have my dear friend here with me to discuss this passing over time. She is a lawyer and an Emmy Award-winning TV writer and producer living here at the Village. So welcome, Terry. I'm delighted to have you here. Thank you
so much.
So we met when she attended my balance classes, and we soon learned that we had similar views regarding this passage of time into the elder years. We both firmly believe that degeneration is not inevitable. Aging is inevitable because, if we live long enough and we're blessed, if we're given the gift of life, that's wonderful. How we age, that's a totally different matter. And so today we're here to have a discussion about moving through time. We're not here to convince anyone. We're just here to present a new way of approaching aging. And so Terry, thank you again for being here.
My pleasure.
And please tell me or tell us what made you go into a different direction. Why weren't you just willing to accept that, the general thought pattern of, decrepitude and degeneration is just one of those facts of life? What made you choose a different path?
I think brought down to its simplest way of looking at it, there's two views of the world. Mm-hmm. My father, who was quite conventional and kind of pessimistic by nature, would always declaim life is real and life is earnest. Things are as they are, not as we would wish them to be. In other words, he saw a very materialistic view of the universe. You just kind of went with whatever happened. You didn't have much control over it, and that was just the way it was. And you might wind up with a crap sandwich, but that was, and certainly when you got older, that was it, and you just kind of braved it out the best you could, and then you got sick and you wound up in a nursing home and you died.
So it's like living by default. It's whatever lands on you.
You're not creating your life. You're observing it and reacting to it. And
correct.
That was very unappealing to me. And
I hear you.
I've been very interested in this forever because it always seems so weird to me. Everybody's always excited about reaching certain milestones in their life. Like you're excited to be 16 so you can drive. You're excited to be 21. You're excited even to be 30. But pretty soon you start dreading it. And by the time you get to, say, 60, 70, 80, everybody's like, ugh. And no one really, you have these very negative attitudes about it. And you just, everywhere you look, that's the societal attitude.
That's it.
And I found it really unappealing. And I started to think, is there a different way of looking at the world? And I was introduced to metaphysics at a time when my life completely fell apart. I mean, everything in my life fell apart. I was writing at the time. I lost my writing partner. I lost my boyfriend. He was living in my house and he was contributing to my mortgage. I didn't have money. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have anything. I went to a spiritual teacher and she said, "Are you willing to try an experiment?" So I said, "Oh." And so I said, "I don't know." She said, "You have to detach from your life and your story of, oh, woe is me, and go somewhere where no one knows you, and be willing to not tell your story and to not focus on what you don't want, but spend all your time there focusing on what you do want. So I thought, oh, this is kind of awful, but I'll try it. So I went off to this rather odd place called Meadowlark in Hemet.
Is it still in existence?
I'm not positive. I should look it up and see, but it was run by Quaker doctors, and it was a very interesting place, is all I can say. And no one knew me there, and my instructions were to not tell my story and never explain and never complain.
Uh-huh.
And so I went off to this place, didn't tell anybody anything about myself, didn't participate in anything where people would sit around and tell their story, and I just said,
and moan.
And moan about
and
their story. Why are you here? You know, because that's why are you
yes.
here? I'm here because my husband left me, or because I have whatever.
Some pitiful story.
Well, you would tell your story, and I didn't tell my story, which really upset people. It was really quite interesting. This completely upset people that I wasn't willing to go along with the game. Mm-hmm. But I sat there for 2 weeks, and all I did was write what I wanted to happen in the future and think about what I wanted to happen in the future. Mm-hmm. And I've told this story before to people because I have to keep reminding myself of this, what's possible. I didn't make any phone calls for 2 weeks. That was part of the experiment. I couldn't make any phone calls. I had no idea what was going on. Now you have to remember, I had no job, I had no money, I had no agent, I didn't know what was going to happen. I went home, and I was a nervous wreck. This was the age we still had answering machines.
Yes.
I go home and I turn on my answering machine, and I swear to you, my answering machine had worked out every single problem in my whole life. I decided at that point I'm making it the president of my company, and I'm giving it a big raise. I had an agent, I had a job. I mean, it was so bizarre. The first offer of the job was, would you like to be story editor on Cagney and Lacey? And if I were home, I would have jumped at it. I mean, I'd never worked on a TV show before. Of course I want to be story editor, but I wasn't home, and I wasn't making phone calls, so I didn't return the call. The next call, well, I'm getting really pissed off. You didn't return my call. Okay, you're playing hardball. All right, associate producer. And now I'm getting more money, too. I'm going, oh, my God, now I'm associate producer, and I'm still not returning the call. By the time we were finished with this, I was the producer of Cagney and Lacey with a huge salary.
There you go.
And I thought, this is so absolutely bizarre, but this is a true story, that metaphysics is thought creates reality.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's no question in my mind. There never has been. And like I say, there's a resistance when you bring up that subject because people...
You're not being realistic.
Really.
I mean,
it's like, I think maybe, I don't know, what do you think? That people think there's a lot of responsibility when you take that on.
Absolutely. The first thing you say, if there's something you don't like in your life, you go, well, I wouldn't have created that, so that can't be true.
Correct.
But you don't have to create it by saying, oh, gee, I'd really like to get cancer. It's just you create it by default, by either worrying about cancer, or by worrying about other things, or by resistance. Anyway, the overlying thing for me is I just thought, isn't it weird, and couldn't we have a new attitude about moving through time where this is just another platform for creating?
Absolutely, and that's what I have been seeing. You see, that it is a new platform from which to create.
From a new perspective.
A new perspective and a very fulfilling life, you see.
Totally, and to even think about, well, what are the positive aspects of getting older? I mean, if you could even just sit down now and think about that. If everything else I've said seems like crap to you, like what are you talking about, create your own reality, it still could not hurt to think about the positive aspects of getting older. That it's not just this, remember the old Beatles song, the Stones song, what a drag it is getting old? I mean, what did we grow up on? These were the views, these are views everybody has, let's face it, everybody's got these views that the best you can do is kind of try to stumble through but be a less good representation of who you used to be. Right. And make fun of where you are, and misery loves company.
Exactly.
And none of it appeals to me. So
none of it appeals to me, and that's why we hit it off, because I actually really dislike those jokes about old people. I think there's this disrespectful. And the thing is that what you focus on is what expands, what grows. Consequently, it's like what you did with those 2 weeks. You wrote what you wanted in life.
That's all I did.
That was all you did.
That's all I did.
And that was plenty.
I focused, and the other thing was I had removed myself from my life, so I wasn't so much into my story. Because when you're in your life and in your story, it's very hard to get a new perspective or a new thought.
Right.
You keep repeating what you've done before, and you keep getting the same result. So if you are going to do something wrenching, I mean, there was this fabulous experiment that they took older men, I think they were 65 and older, and they moved them into some place, I don't even know where, but it was like a motel or something. And everything in the motel was furniture from the 50s, newspapers from the 50s, books from the 50s. It was all from the time when they were at their height, when these guys were at the height of their powers. And they were there for I don't know how long. It was a couple of weeks, and they were completely surrounded by things from the 50s.
Just immersed.
Total immersion in this idea of their younger self. There were there were pictures of them when they were younger. There was everything there was from that time. At the end of this time, there were measurable results. There were measurable results in their strength, in their mental acuity, in just their health, everything. They had all become much younger from immersing themselves in this new vibration of youth. And again, it's that idea of having to remove yourself from who you think you are into some new idea, ageless and timeless.
Exactly.
I'm moving through time. I am going to change because change is inevitable. We want change. We don't, I mean, like when you're 7, you don't want to stay 7 forever. I mean, you want to change, you want to mature, but do we have to deteriorate? Do we have to wind up with tubes up our nose in a nursing home?
You see, and that's my objection, that we've literally been programmed to see ourselves automatically degenerating and being decrepit and old and ugly. That's the thing, you see, that we just wither away and become irrelevant. That's the view. And I find it rather offensive, to say the least. And so for me, it's been about taking care of the self, taking care of the body. My advantage over a lot of people is that I was brought up around some very ugly old people, and consequently I didn't want to be like them. You know, I wanted an opportunity to do something else with my life, and consequently I've been very conscious about my health and fitness and so forth. But the real key is the mind.
Well, see, because we come from such different places. Like, I completely abuse my body in a million ways. Because I never thought I was going to get old, really, truly. I mean, never. So, I mean, who cares? Let's, die young, leave a pretty corpse. So, I mean, I really abuse my body. So now, is it like, by changing my thoughts, can I change the result?
And that is what I'm proposing that we focus on, and perhaps bring others in, as members of the club or however, to participate in this experiment. Can we actually change our physical reality, you see? And I believe that it is possible, because then somebody say, if you believe it, it's true. Because I know, and I've been telling my clients all these years, is that if it's true for you, it's true, it's your truth. It may not be mine, I may not be in agreement with that, but if it's your belief and you're in alignment with that, then it will be true for you. So that's the approach that I want as far as this moving through time, which I think is a nicer phrase than aging.
Well, Renee and I have been talking about, I have forever thought, I love demonstrations of things. To me, it makes it, like talking doesn't teach anything. It's like living teaches, demonstrations teach. And we've been talking about, I wanted to do something maybe on YouTube where you get a group of people who are committed to this idea that they're willing to do an experiment where by changing my attitude and my mind about aging, I can affect actual results in the real world.
Correct.
I mean, I'm having health challenges now, and I am having trouble reversing them. And I know a lot of it is I just have such entrenched thought about it, you know, that when you're sick, and you're old,
It's
but
the belief.
It's the beliefs. And
It's the
so to
belief.
change them, I know I've got to do something radical. And so I think it would be interesting if there's anyone watching this that this vibrating for them. I mean, if it doesn't, then, you know, forget it. But it's not for you, obviously. But if this is hitting you in anywhere where you go, wow, that sounds interesting,
Right.
please contact Renee.
Right. If it resonates, please let us work on this, because I believe it's totally possible. I know that there are many groups wanting to tap into longevity or whatever. What do they call that movement?
Which one?
It's like life extension, you know, where they expect to live forever. But of course, they're doing a lot of things that I really don't go along with. You know, starting with the surgeries and the fillers, and then all these medications, drugs, and so forth. No, I really don't believe in any of that. I do believe in the power of the mind. That is where my heart is. And I know that if you believe in anything strongly enough, it will come about. I mean, that I think we have seen.
See, now Renee's faith is much stronger than mine. Mine goes between that, where I get very exhilarated, to, oh, please. This is just metaphysical fairy tales we tell ourselves so that we're not so nervous about, oh, we're getting really old and the nursing home's getting closer and closer. But I want to give it an experiment. I mean, isn't it worth it? To me, this is like an exciting challenge, and one of the really exciting challenges of being older.
Yes.
That this becomes, I mean, like, it's right in front of all of us, let's face it. And living in a retirement community, you are faced every day where you see people and you go, oh, that's pretty scary looking.
Absolutely, and it does frighten us, and especially if we get a diagnosis or we go for our yearly exam and, you know, we're told not pretty news or uplifting news, then we automatically just go into that spin, you know, like it's the water swirling down the sink. That, you know, it's all over.
It's inevitable.
I have nothing to look forward to. It's just all downhill from now. Well, you know, just yesterday I received a postcard from one of my former clients, and you know, she was in a place where she couldn't make a decision. She was really bored with her life. She wasn't married, but she had been with a man for several years, just really bored. And then she started to work with me, and we did quite a bit of work, but I knew that she was a freedom seeker. At heart, she wanted her freedom, and she wanted full self-expression. Well, after doing some work, you know, the first thing she did? And she could ride a motorcycle, and she still does. She rented a motorcycle in South America, I think it was in Colombia, and by herself, she traveled all the way to Tierra del Fuego. I mean, she wanted to prove to herself that she was capable of doing this, and she had always had the yearning, but she never thought she was capable. And so she took that on, and it was remarkable, the transformation that has occurred, because then, since then, because she rode a motorcycle, I think it was one of the motorcycle companies hired her to do an expedition in, not Nairobi, but, you know, some exotic Eastern country. And anyway, she's so happy, you know. Again, it's that expression of being youthful,
wanting something. She wanted
something.
To get the juices going. There's something you gotta want.
Flowing.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't want to ride a motorcycle through there, but
very few people do.
But I would love to demonstrate that change is possible.
Exactly.
That you can take someone like myself, who is usually has been a fairly negative person with a lot of negative beliefs, and I mean, I didn't even know you were supposed to be happy. That was a goal.
And yes, and that was the same situation with this client.
Yeah.
That she didn't know that being happy was in the cards.
Well, I didn't even know that was a viable want.
Or even an option.
But even if it was an option, I didn't think that you should want it, that it was stupid to want to be happy. And so,
well,
for me,
yes.
to experience happiness would be like a major I mean, rather than riding a motorcycle, I'd like to experience happiness.
Yes.
But I'd also like to experience myself as the powerful creator of my life.
Well,
that I'm not just here as an observer, and when things are good, I feel happy, and when things aren't good, I go, well, as soon as X happens, I'll be happy. But instead, know that I am the creator of my life.
And that is, again, that responsibility that I feel a lot of people are reluctant to look at.
No, it's too scary.
It's very scary.
And it's also, we have to remember something, it is very enticing to claim your victimhood.
Oh my goodness, isn't it though?
We are in a time of victimhood where people get extra points for how victim-y they are.
Yes.
And the more victim checkpoints you can hit, the more exalted you are.
Yes.
And I've always said, even if you didn't want to be a victim earlier in your life, old age is the last stand of the victim, because it'll go, ha ha. You think you've got it all figured out? Well, we've got Alzheimer's, we've got Parkinson's, we got cancer,
diabetes, you name it.
What would you like? This could all be yours. Just wait, and like you wake up in the middle of the night and we'll zap you. And then you get to be the victim, or you even get to be the victim of, I can't move, my arthritis is so bad.
Yes.
Or, I can't remember anything. Or, I can't see, or I can't hear, or whatever it is. And then everybody, you bond. I mean, that was the other thing that spiritual teacher told me. The easiest way to bond with people is to be a victim with them.
Misery loves company.
Stand in line in the bank and go, these lines are so long, they always do this to you. Or, be at the community center and go, they should have more comfortable chairs for we old people because my limbs, whatever it is. And then the next one goes, no, I hurt more than you do. Or So it's very tempting. And people do not bond with you when you just go, everything's great.
I'm happy.
They go, well, that's really dull. What are we going to talk about now?
Yes, can we talk about pain and being a victim? And that is just so sad. I think it sort of goes along with what your father said to you.
Right.
So it seemed that being happy would be selfish, or seeking personal
stupid.
happiness.
My father said it was stupid. Trying to be happy was stupid.
Oh, it was mother who said it was selfish. Or my mother.
Your mother said it was selfish. No, my mother didn't discuss happiness. It wasn't possible.
It wasn't.
But with my father, it was stupid. Only stupid people want to be happy, like smiling idiots. I mean, I had some of the most bizarre ideas about happiness. That I'm not even. Okay, I would call them bovine creatures in the valley. And to me, this was, anyway. We needn't go into some of the deeper recesses of my negativity, but just to try to claim a new way of looking at the world and a new way of looking at aging.
And that's really what I've been seeking, because again, there is that spiritual component, that connection to the inner being. And that to me is really, again, the key, the mastery, because it is making that connection that we live life fully. And that connection to me means your intuition, paying attention to the intuition. That inner being is about connecting with that part of yourself. I've never heard anyone say, I followed my intuition and it all went wrong. No, I've heard people say again and again, I knew I should have done that. I had a feeling I should have done that. And then they don't. And that's where sorrow comes in. But so you see, it's about expecting, or maybe raising expectations as to what is possible.
That's why I think the group is very important, because I know if I can see demonstrations of things. When I was writing many years ago, I wanted to write strong women, because I felt role models were very important. And because for a lot of people, if they've never seen it, they can't imagine, they can't do it, because they can't even imagine it. So role models of people who have cracked this code, I think are very important. I mean, I think it could be very uplifting. Again, I'd love to explore this with a group of people. Some of the concepts we've been talking about are, if they reverberate at all, I'd suggest anyone watching, I know my personal teacher now comes from Abraham Hicks.
Yes, the law of attraction.
The law of attraction, as taught by Abraham Hicks. If any of this makes any sense to you, check it out on YouTube. There's a ton of videos. See what she says about your inner guidance, because that we all have a guidance system, and isn't that exciting? And that we can follow our guidance system and know when we're aligned and know when we're not.
Exactly, and that is the intuition, following the feeling in your gut.
Does it feel good? She makes it real simple. Does it feel good or does it feel bad? There's only two real basic feelings. Feels good, and you pretty much know if it, in your solar plexus, if you go, ooh, it doesn't feel good. If it feels, it feels good.
Yeah, it's very easy. It's either uplifting or it's not.
Yeah.
And consequently, which way do you want to live your life? That is the bottom line.
Exactly.
That if you're willing to take responsibility and view this process of reaching the elder years in a positive manner, then, give me a call. And again, we want to start this group. So, Terry, any closing words of wisdom here?
Words of wisdom. May we all live long and prosper. The Star Trek.
Right. That's really what we all want. And yes, to find fulfillment, I believe that we deserve it. We are entitled to it. And to stop commiserating and playing up the negative aspects or the challenges in aging. And so, again, we invite you to join this experiment and participate in this possibility. I think it exists. I think it's possible if you believe it. All right? Thank you for watching.